It's cold sometimes. I was a sickly child before I died. Maybe that's why the cold hurt me so easily, but the fire was only lit when my father wanted it, and he'd rather spend his money on things other than flames. Could we have the fire, please? I asked once. I'm so cold. Are you training for the fires of hell, boy? Don't be ungrateful. Your blanket should be enough for you. I was huddled up in a blanket that couldn't trap warmth that my frozen skin wasn't losing. I knew that my dad had a good job, but he made me live as though we had nothing. On my final day, I was filled with fever. My skin felt scalding hot even as I saw my breath hang in the air, and I was so scared that hell had found me. Instead, death is just a muted echo of all that takes place for the living. I watched my parents find my corpse, and not once since that day have I walked through the hell my father described to me. The skin of my ghostly form never burns away from me as he said it might, and my eyes never drip, melted, from their sockets. It's even cold sometimes. With nowhere in particular to go, I stayed in the home and watched my parents live. Over time and many overheard conversations, I began to understand the ways that they'd wronged me. My parents argued, and I found out that father's money was being wasted on gambling. My mother's friend visited her, and I learned that adults had worried about me, but my mother had lied to cover for my father over and over. Slowly, I realized that I could just barely affect the realm of the living. A reflection of myself in my mother's mirror. A cup nudged off the table, an audible screech of rage in the night. My mother left in fear. My father took up drinking, and it was on a night when he had thoroughly indulged in this sin that I took my revenge. The fire was lit as he slept, as was his right alone, and I knocked one of its embers onto the floor. As the house went up in flames, it felt nothing but pleasantly warm to me. But as I touched father's dying flesh, it was a furnace, and I knew where he was headed. The bones of the house were still good, despite the fire, and so after a time it was inhabited again. I stayed and watched generations come and go right up until today. Today, the house's occupants are echoes of the family I remember. A child needing help, and a parent offering only hatred. I can't guarantee a happy life for the child, for I can't be there for her. Anything could happen to the girl once she leaves. The only thing that I can promise is that after tonight, her mother will never feel the cold again.